Hi, I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the Senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville. Welcome to this week's edition of Kibbitzing with Kagan, brief conversations with people I find fascinating. Today, my very special guest is Lester Davis, Governor Moore's pretty new Chief of Staff. Lester, thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Thank you, Senator. The pleasure is all mine. And I got to tell you, this has been the highlight. I've been looking forward to this ever since you mentioned that I could potentially be a guest. I've been excited, so I'm happy to be here.
Woohoo! So, the goal of this is to let people get to know more about you. And you have a fascinating background. So, after getting your undergrad degree in journalism, print journalism from Norfolk State University, an HBCU, historically Black college and university, you have had a career as a journalist on Capitol Hill with the City of Baltimore, in public affairs firms, in healthcare with Care First, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and now Chief of Staff to the Governor. Give us a quick overview as to how that whole wonderful career has gone for you.
Well, first of all, Senator, that was an excellent, pretty quick synopsis. So very impressive. What I would say is the through line for me. I really think the start starts in my mother's uh, corner grocery store. She was an entrepreneur, owned her own business for over 30 years, and that grocery store was really the epicenter of the community, the small community where I grew up in Northeast DC in Ward 7 in our nation's capital.
Nice.
And it's where I learned to negotiate amongst sometimes warring factions, where we had to be the best versions of ourselves that you could think of, and it was really the kind of the town square and the town center, and I think a lot of my career I owe to that start in my mother's corner grocery store, and so everything else is a jumping off point from there.
I love that. My grandparents had a small store in DC as well, and they were very proud of all that they did. What don't folks know about you? What isn't obvious in your bio?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that not everyone may know. I think people that know me well do know this, but maybe some of your viewers might not know that actually I have a pretty good day job, but my best job, quite honestly, I get to be a dad to three amazing kids. They're teenagers, and we've got more years behind us in the house than I like to say we have in front of us, and so I'm enjoying every minute and every second. I'm really a silly dad, much to the chagrin of my kids, who I think tolerate me but get annoyed at their dad, who wakes them up too excited in the morning,
Oh,
and who's too silly when they're home from school and tired in the evenings. But they tolerate me and they love me.
every morning is Christmas morning. Come on,
Yes, that's
let's.
right.
I love
That's
that.
exactly right.
So you talked about your mom and her
Yes,
shop.
yes.
Talk about who role modeled public service, government service for you as a young person.
Yeah, I think that's easy. I think it's a combination of people who, in their own right, I think, uh, kind of exemplified roles of public service. So I would say, obviously, my mom, it starts with her as
Right.
kind of the glue for that community. But then there were a string of folks who were really, I would say, in the education space. So primarily teachers,
Mhm.
primarily educators, coaches, a particular football coach, a legendary football coach in DC who took an interest in me, a kid that had no athletic ability whatsoever, but
What position did you play in football?
I played they would call it left bench, but no, no, I was a DB, defensive back, essentially, but that particular coach who I didn't really bring anything on the field, but he took an interest in me, and for 3 years was able to get a little better and play on the team, and so I think he definitely was one. And then I think there were some teachers, one teacher in particular, a woman, Susie Kay, who started a very well known not-for-profit in DC, Hoop Dream Scholarship Fund.
Yes,
She was
yes.
my teacher. She was
Amazing.
my homeroom teacher all 4 years, and then my government teacher my junior year. And a little known fact, there is a Washington Post article out there that includes a quote from a high school junior, Lester Davis, in
Oh,
the Washington Post with Susie Kay. So I was one of the Hoop Dream scholars. I was an
yes.
intern And she was someone who took an interest in me and invested in me, even when I didn't sometimes always invest in myself. So I would say those were really the public servants that I cared the most about, and they were the most impactful for me.
Okay, so that makes me ask like 20 questions, but we don't have time for 20 questions. What high school did you go to in DC?
I went to H.D. Woodson High School,
Okay,
It used to be the Tower of Power. The
okay,
school was redesigned back in, I think, the early 2000s,
okay,
early part of the 2000s. So it's no longer a tower, but
okay,
the Warriors are still mighty.
okay. My mother went to Roosevelt. So,
Okay, cool.
um, uh, Susie Kay, I knew when I ran the Carl M. Freeman Foundation. So the nonprofit community and philanthropy community kind of cross over a lot.
That's right.
You chose an HBCU.
Mhm.
Tell me why that mattered for you and what you think you took away that you might not have garnered or gained if you had gone to a predominantly white school.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting, I went to Norfolk State found me, and I like to say, in the midst of going to that university, I found myself. And so I'll give you an example. I was not sure what I wanted to do, but I had a mother who believed in me and said, "Hey, you wanna go to college? You're gonna go to college." And at the start of my sophomore year, she passed tragically, unexpectedly.
Oh no, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
was not had not been ill or didn't have a long illness, but passed tragically. And
Mm,
it was really that university community and a couple professors in particular who wrapped their arms around me. One professor in particular, a guy by the name of Dr. Richard Kuntz, who was just visiting with me earlier um, in the fall. Was at my house maybe
mm.
in October, late October, and that was really the place where I found myself. It was Dr. Kuntz who introduced me to journalism, and
Nice.
kind of I saw that as a continuation of a lot of the skills that I developed in my mother's shop, listening to people, kind of hearing their stories, being able to tell people stories and learn through the experiences of others, which I think are definitely tenets of journalism, and certainly served me well in a career of public service where you got to listen to other people and try to figure out a way to get a win where maybe there isn't a path to a win, and only doing that through shared experiences
I love that.
is really the area where I learned that was at
Yeah.
Norfolk State.
Yeah. Man, your mother would be so proud of you, and I'm so sorry she's not here to cheer you on and celebrate you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. So print journalism is obviously going through a crazy hard time in the last bit, but especially the last year. Talk about the shift from journalism to public affairs and then government.
Yeah, I would say, very much was a kind of uh, enmeshed road, if you will. And I didn't really, one kind of served the other. And I wrote pretty regularly up until probably about 2019, when through just a series of events, I was working for a gentleman who was the head of the local legislature in Baltimore City, the
Hmm.
city council, and through a series of events that are certainly publicly known, we found ourselves almost overnight thrust into the mayor's office. The mayor at the time had an unfortunate series of events and had to step down, and we were
Yep.
thrust in.
Yep.
But I was writing pretty regularly for the Washington Post. Was writing as a columnist, writing kind of real estate stories, and I saw the journalism really, I think, informing my policy work and legislative work. I think the tenets of having to listen and really truly listen to people, right? Like not listen almost in the sense of, well, I hear you, but I'm not really listening, but
Uh-huh.
kind of listening for someone to drop a nugget that can really help inform where we go next. I
Yes.
always found and I thought enriched the work that I did as a public policy professional and as a legislative professional. And so I was able to do those things in concert. But I did a lot of writing. I wrote for the Washington Post. I wrote parenting columns. I wrote reported stories. I wrote for nursing magazines. I wrote
Nice.
I wrote pieces for Johns Hopkins Nursing School of Nursing. I wrote things for University of Maryland School of Nursing. So a lot of writing, I think, was helping to kind of pull out the shades of my public policy mind.
And let's be clear for any young people who are watching or listening, this was a million years before artificial intelligence. So he
Yes,
actually did the writing.
that is true. There was no chat GPT.
No
That is
chat
for sure.
GPT. Lester, talking about a nugget, you led me to my next question, which was about Baltimore City. Sometimes it gets a bad break in the press. What do you think its biggest challenges are, and what do you think people should know about the city?
Baltimore is my adopted home. You could
Mhm.
never have convinced me that I had no idea growing up that I would find myself in Baltimore, but I've been a resident of the city and living in the area for almost 20 years. And
Mhm.
it's where I kind of grew up in my professional world. And so the city um, and the region, really, I owe so much to it. And I think, it's the thing that I would say is a great thing. I think of the people,
Yes.
right? It's a place that is warm and is embracing. And then I think in terms of, whether it's challenges or opportunities, I think, there are a lot of things that are, Baltimore has its better days ahead of it. I think there's a renaissance that's happening and a lot of development and growth that is gonna add to its continued kind of vibrancy. But I'm bullish on the city, and I'm bullish on the region, really, and the
Yes.
entire state.
Yes. Yes. So let's run through things a little quicker. I still have a million questions. Have you ever thought of running for office yourself? Why or
No,
why not?
no,
No. Oh, that was
no,
a quick no.
yeah, no, not
Never?
at all.
No.
No,
Okay.
never, ever. I love being the person that is in the assisting and helping role, and I've
Okay.
supported a lot of folks that have been candidates, including our
Yep.
fine governor,
Yes.
who I had the chance to work on this campaign back in 2020 when it was
Yep.
really just an idea. But no, have not thought about running for office.
Right. Right. Um, 2022. Yes. So,
2022 was when he ran. We started having the conversations in the
oh,
summer of 2020.
fair. Okay. So it's just been a little over a month at this taping that you have been chief of staff. So I have some questions about that. First off, uh, all my kibitzes with cabinet secretaries, and I chatted with virtually every member of his initial cabinet. I got the journey. How did this come about? How did you get the job?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think timing is everything. And I had spent the previous 3 years as an executive at Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield,
Yep.
where was joined with a phenomenal and visionary CEO, Brian Pennick, who is off and doing wonderful things at a company in Florida now. And I think Brian's, his opportunity and I think exit from Maryland created opportunity for me to really think about where
Mhm.
I wanted my next role to be. It obviously coincided with the governor having a need in his office, and it really kind of worked out. I've been
Okay.
fortunate in that regard, but it's been I would say timing was really the secret sauce.
Okay. Biggest surprise since you've come as become chief of staff?
Interesting. Biggest surprise. That's a great question. Biggest surprise, although it shouldn't be a surprise because I have experienced this, but I'm certainly experiencing it from a different dynamic. It's the beauty of the state house. Every day, every
Nice.
morning, I think around. I usually get into the office a little before 8:30,
Uh-huh.
and as I'm driving in and it comes into view, I
Yeah.
still I still am kind of gobsmacked by it. So I would say just the state house, being able to come to this building every day and work out of this building, I think it's pretty cool.
I love that. What's the biggest challenge you've discovered so far?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge and certainly had an appreciation for this before. I think it certainly has come into clear view. I think the state is facing a lot of fiscal and budgetary challenges, which we
Mm-hmm.
are all aware of. I know you
Mm-hmm.
are very aware of this fact, and we're going to have to navigate those. I think that is on the challenging side. I think on the optimistic side, look, we've got some phenomenal leaders that are here. Certainly, leaders like yourself and others that are in the General Assembly. And I think I've been heartened by a lot of the conversations that I've had, certainly with budget, folks that are primarily thinking about the budget, but then also just other members of the General Assembly
Yes.
that are in leadership. And so I think we've got a lot of really phenomenal people who are long-standing, public officials who I think we're going to wrap our arms around. And so I think that's the
Good.
opportunity.
Good. Talk about to folks who may not have the whole image. Talk about what a chief of staff to a governor does or what you do in that role. Give an idea of the breadth of responsibility.
Oh my goodness, it is
Other than
everything.
everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, and it literally is. It's one day I'm working with our public safety correctional folks on some reforms around prison safety, to thinking about how we think about artificial intelligence and what that's going to mean for our workforce, to
Mhm.
thinking about the rebuild of the iconic Francis Scott Key
Big
Bridge. I mean,
bridge.
it
Mhm.
really runs the gamut of a host of things that you can think of. And that's really the thing I think that gets me most excited about the job, quite honestly, is that it touches on everything in every corner of our state.
How long are your days or weeks?
I typically will start my day, roughly, around maybe 7 a.m. or so with some reading and with some, first calls.
Mhm.
I'm usually in commute. I drop my kids off, so that is important to me. So
Yes.
I wanna make sure that I can get them to school, and so I'm usually in the office, physically in the office, around 8:20, 8:15 to 8:20.
Mhm.
And I would say generally I'm wrapping up my day in office typically around 7 to drive back 7:30 or so to drive back to Baltimore, and then
Mhm.
I'll have another couple hours of reading and sometimes some virtual meetings, and then on the weekends it's I usually try to reserve some time for my kids, and so what that may mean is I typically will elect to not go to a Ravens game so that I can watch
Yes.
it with my kids.
Yes.
But I typically will be on a call or the like throughout the weekend. So typically a couple
Yeah.
hours on the weekend, a handful of hours each day on Saturday and
Sure.
Sunday. But I'll try to sneak in some fun stuff with family.
So a lot of times people only ask about work-life balance. They only ask women, and I ask men, but you have already covered that very well. So thanks for being such a great role model as a spouse and parent. What part of your job has proven to be most fun so far?
The part that's proven to be most fun, I think, has been getting to know a number of colleagues in the administration. Right, I didn't have a full sense of the kind of depth and breadth of the folks that are, as we call, the second floor, right, the
Mhm.
administrative staff in the
Mhm.
governor's office. I think that's been the most fun,
Nice.
getting to know some of my colleagues.
I love that. What changes for your job during the legislative session, the 90 days that the Senate and House are hanging out with you guys in Annapolis?
I'll be here even more if that's hard to believe. You can't see it in front of me, but I'm in my office right now and I've got a couch. So I imagine
Oh
I may,
no.
maybe I'll be sleeping on that couch. I've had a couple of friends that have said, "Hey, I've got a spare room if you want to use
Yes.
it." But I suspect I'll sleep on this couch maybe once or twice during session.
I can imagine. Sorry, sorry in advance. What changes come in an election year? Next year's an election year. You're coming in right in the line of fire.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah, I think
expect different?
it's an opportunity to kind of talk about what we've done over the term,
Hmm.
how we've been able to, I think, improve things for Marylanders. What the vision is for the next term. I think those are all things that make me excited, and I know the governor's excited to tell that story as well.
Yes. So obviously, Governor Wes Moore is visible out and about in the state of Maryland and also visible and out and about around the country. How do you think about balancing his state visibility, role, responsibility with the interest that folks have in him around the country?
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question. Maryland's always first, front and center. Maryland's our North Star. Everything starts with Maryland. Maryland is the most important. And I think to the extent that the governor's travels take him outside of the state, it's really in service of the state, either highlighting areas of investment and innovation. I think some opportunities to push back on sort of the disinvestment that we've seen at the federal level,
We
obviously,
are getting to that.
which is
Yes.
yeah, which is a big piece. But I think it all starts and ends with the state and what's best for the state and how best to uplift the state.
Thank you. Um, so Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller have been, but especially the governor, has been a visible and ferocious warrior against Donald Trump and his I'm a nationally ranked Scrabble player, as you know, and I'm a word nerd and a grammar geek, but like I can't even come up with the right words. Donald Trump's cruel, short-sighted, inhumane, uh, depressing, outrageous, ridiculous policies, and yet there are 50 words that I've left out. How do you stay sane? How do you pick which battles? There's so many battles. How do you work with or collaborate ever? I don't even know where to ask the question. Why don't you speak to the reality of the Trump administration?
Yeah, I think here's what I will say, and I saw this certainly in my previous role at Care First Blue Cross, where we spent a lot of time working with the state on the negotiating the ahead model. I've certainly seen it in this job in the short
Hmm.
time that I've been there. While we often see sort of the divisiveness that makes headlines, there are
Hmm.
still a lot of very dedicated hardworking, wonderful people in the administration who are part of the staff dynamic that we do work very well with. Right, I've seen it on the bridge rebuild. I've certainly seen it on some of the healthcare dynamics and aspects of where we are. And so I think some of it is obviously, we'll push back where pushback is needed, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And quite frankly, a lot of good work that is happening at the staff level. With respect to the federal government, and so I do. If there's any piece of encouragement or thing that would leave the folks who are viewers and kind of watching this program is there is still a lot of positive work that is being done. And I think a lot of positive work left to do. And it's still a lot of great dedicated public servants that are at the federal level, that are in the administration, who are part of that warrior class, who are helping Maryland and who are locking arms with us to try to get some things done. And so I think that's the piece that leaves me encouraged.
I have to say, there's a part of me that wants to say, "What have you been drinking?" But good for
It's
you.
just, it's evident, it's
Okay.
evidentiary, right? I think
Okay.
the proof is in the pudding, so to speak.
Okay.
And I think
Okay.
a lot of the strides and a lot of the things that we've done have been because of some of the folks that are, names the average person that's just reading the
Sure.
headlines would never know. These
Right.
aren't folks that are necessarily visible, but they are in administration and they do
Sure.
care about these things, and they've been a help.
Good. Just a few more questions before we go to our Fast Five. Um, you don't do social media yourself. Do you scroll? Do you go through TikTok or YouTube
No.
or
I
Instagram?
try
And
to no, I
you're
try to
away
stay
from it
away
all.
from it.
Okay.
I certainly get folks that they send me things,
Okay.
and I see it in that way. But no, the 10 years that I spent in executive roles with Baltimore City didn't have social media at all, personal
Yeah.
social media.
Yes.
I got it for a period once I left the city and went into the private sector, and then did that for a year or so, and then got
Okay.
got rid of it. I just
Okay.
think it's a healthier way to be for me personally. Nothing against folks that
Sure.
have it. Certainly, my wife is an avid social media poster
Okay.
and follower, and I will have folks who will say, and this was the case when the kids were growing up, and the kids, I have teenagers now, but
Right.
when they were little, I would have, sometimes reporters or others that would say, "Oh, I noticed you were at the farmers market this weekend," or I'd look at them kind of quizzical, and they'd say, "Oh,
Oh yeah.
I follow your wife," and I say, "Okay, that's
There
right.
you
Yes,
go.
we were." So yeah, it's just a way to keep my sanity, if you will.
That's awesome. Briefly, do you want to mention some of the governor's upcoming legislative priorities for when we reconvene in January?
Yeah, I think it'll be no surprise. I mean, obviously, there are elements around, spurring economic growth and development that will be a huge part of a focus. There certainly will be a continuation of, I think, some of the housing pieces that we've seen. Obviously, we've seen a lot of trends coming out of Maryland, and we've seen discussions nationally where just affordability continues to be
Yeah.
a huge challenge for us. And then I think there are elements around investing in young people that are going to be a big one. The enough bill and some of the work that the legislature is certainly going to partner on. I think we'll want to continue to invest there. And so I think it'll be should be a very robust legislative session. And I think there'll be bills where we're going to want to partner with members of the General Assembly on some things that members have in their queue and things that are important to
Yes.
them. And I think things that we can lend our support behind. And so there'll certainly be opportunities for that as
Okay,
well.
hold on, hold on. Let me get you my list. Okay.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
is there anything that I haven't asked you that you will just be ticked off if we don't talk about? Anything you want to say about yourself or about the governor?
No, I think just that, it's certainly, I think we find ourselves in challenging times, but look, those times offer the most opportunity. And
Yes.
so I'm just an optimist by nature, and I really see areas of investment and opportunity. Doesn't mean that we're naive or Pollyanna
Right.
to the challenges we face, but we've got everything we need here in the state to do some great things.
All right. Lester Davis, Chief of Staff to Governor Wes Moore. It is time for your Fast Five. Five
Okay,
quick
okay.
questions, five quick answers. So, question number one, what is a hobby or something fun that helps you blow off steam?
A hobby or something fun that helps me blow off steam. I love um, sitting. There's a couch that I've got in my living room or my sun porch just off my living room. I love sitting there and just catching up on news. I'm a news junkie. So we got a lot of magazines. We subscribe to a lot of periodicals. And when I do have time, will go through them. I do enjoy a good book, but I love to read magazines and just kind of news articles.
Okay. Question two, who is your shero or hero? And I will take your mom off that because we already know that she was your hero, shero. Who
Yeah,
else?
that's easy. My wife, Tanika Davis. She's an incredible mother, incredible human being. So I'll list her.
I love that. Question number three, what is your favorite genre of music? And do you have an anthem that lifts you up and inspires you? A song that especially moves you?
Oh, that is a phenomenal question. So I would say favorite genre. I will list R&B. It is
Okay.
really the soundtrack of my childhood and my youth. And I think to that, I will answer. And I just actually heard the song randomly in the car this weekend. I had an uncle who played a lot of 70s Motown as a child, and
Huh?
the OJs. I love music. I hear that, and I immediately think of this particular uncle who passed recently.
That's
But
nice.
I'll say 70s, 60s, and 70s Motown R&B.
Nice, nice. Question number four. If you could travel anywhere in the world that you've not been and neither time nor money were an object, where would you go?
Mm. I would I would do a jaunt to West Africa. And just recently my wife and sister-in-law kind of, harassed me until I did the 23andMe, kind of
Yes.
ancestry. I finally did it and had a fair amount of West African that was identified. And so I would pick that. Just maybe, there's some ancestry pieces that we can figure out there.
That's fantastic. I like
Yeah.
that. Lester Davis, time for question number five. What is your hidden secret superpower? What is a skill or talent you have, something you're really good at that most folks can't do?
So I think the thing that I have a kind of supernatural ability to do, I really do think it's active listening. And I genuinely do. I'm more interested in listening to others than talking about me. And so I think that that's a thing that served me well over the course of my life and career. And so I really do use that as an ability to give me a leg up. And it's a genuine interest that I have in folks.
Well, I thought that might be your answer, and it has been great listening to you. And I am grateful that you were willing to talk about yourself a little bit and your new job. Lester Davis, wishing you all the very best as you take on a big role as Chief of Staff for Governor Wes Moore. I appreciate your taking time to kibitz today. I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.
Thank you for having me, and this has been a pleasure.
Thank you. Take care. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.